Okay, hey everybody, this is Professor Kelsey Coes, and this is the Divination Academy. This is the Dark Goddess Devotional Series and the class on Tiamat. I am actually going to stay off camera today. I don't normally do that, but I'm kind of tired. That moon ceremony pulled a lot out of me recently, so I am a little bit tired, so I'm just going to stay off camera, but yay, I'm super, super, super excited to be here. I'm super excited to talk about the goddess Tiamat, and who she is. And yeah, if you haven't been in class with me before, I am a Grey Witch practitioner. I consider myself a mystic. I do a lot of deity work. Is like one of my specialties at this point, I would kind of consider. I love talking about them. I love teaching you about them. I do a lot of history. I talk to you about where they show up in different mythologies. I talk to you about how to connect to them. And then I do typically connect you to them. Today, I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. I think because we have a small amount of people here today, I probably actually might. Just because Tiamat she's a very, very big energy. She is a force. Whether she shows up in a way that's very like flame and rage and anger coming out of grief, or whether she's showing up as like the absolute stillness and calmness of the salt water and of the chaos of the origins of the universe and where everything and everybody comes from and the mother of everything. So however she shows up to you, she can be a really, really big energy. So that's one reason where I was like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like bring her in today. The other is because she is one that I have been working with the least amount of time. I have been learning about her for maybe about 5 or 6 years, like on and off. But I didn't really start like working with her and like connecting with her and trying to understand like draconian magic, which is a great way, like because she's a dragon. That's like a really one of the number one ways to connect to her until the last like year or so, about the last year. So this is like one of my newer connections that I have. And like I said, she's a really big energy. So I didn't know how it would play depending on how many people we had here, but I think I might. We'll see how it feels. So I'll let you guys know when we get to that point. Honey and Jennifer, who are here today, do you guys, either one of you, like know anything about Tiamat? Like, have you heard about her? Do you know anything at all? If you do, like, you can let me know. If you don't, that's totally fine. I'm just really curious with her because she's kind of, yeah, I figured, nope, because she's hard to find information on because there's so little about her, and because of the culture and region she comes from too. So I'm just curious. She does pop up some places in modern day stuff. Yeah, she can be linked to a hydrant in some way, shape, or form. That is one way that she can be seen as like a dragon with multiple heads. Um, that is one way. So yes, okay, awesome. Okay, so this is gonna be like a lot of new information. Okay, I'm really excited. Does anybody need? Yay, I'm awesome. Yay, Miss Adams, you made it. Yay. Okay, so does anybody need the link to the study guide? And this one is smaller than normal, because like I said, there is very few information about her. Like very, very little information about her. We literally, I'm going to talk about it more, but like we literally pretty much know nothing about how she was worshipped, if she was worshipped even. Like there's just like a lot we literally just don't know about her. So this one is a little bit less, but I will give you what I do know, what I can find about her, all I know about her, how to connect with her. And then, like I said, depending on how I feel, like because we do have a smaller chunk, I think I might be able to, I might be willing to let that amount of power out. Because she is a force. She really, really is. Okay, so we'll jump into the study guide then. Fabulous. So I feel like it's kind of 50-50, where many of us have maybe heard of the goddess Tiamat just because like she showed up in some modern ways. She showed up in a couple of different video games. She showed up in a couple different like trading card playing games. Like she shows up in a couple different places like that. Like I think a lot of times if you Google Tiamat, like the first thing that will pop up is actually Magic the Gathering. I think she pops up in Magic the Gathering. So I think a lot of people maybe like briefly heard about her in that sense, but that's kind of it. Or like they know like the region that she's tied to, but that's kind of it. Her presence it's been distorted. She's got a lot of like she's been warped in a couple different views. The deity after her, Marduk, like he did a really good job of doing that and literally stamping her out, and I'll talk about that later. And a lot of times if people do know about her, she's usually very popular with being attached to the mother of monsters, or as like Honey had pointed out, she's a dragon with 7 or 9 heads. She's usually like known as some type of form of a hydra. She's always this incredibly powerful creature that's like almost impossible to defeat if you see her. She's known as the mother of demons and monsters, but she's also the foundation of the world. She's like literally the world is created inside and like literally out of her body. That is literally who she is. Like our entire planet, our world was literally forged within her body. This goddess literally, she really has a ton of power according to her myth. She's literally the beginning of all. She's primordial. She was there before everybody and everything. But like I said, we don't have a ton of information about her, but what we do, that's what we know about her. And we have, like I said, even less information about how she was worshipped. Like we really don't have much. Like if you are looking at the top of this at the study guide, like that very top like picture that's there on the left, like that's almost it. You don't see her really many other places. You'll see her like that around. Like there's not like a temple dedicated to her. Like we haven't found anything like that that has to do with her, even though like in the stories, in the epics, in the origin story of creation, like she plays such a key role, but like there's no temple, like there's nothing, we don't have that. So a lot of this what we do with like her worship and like how to connect with her, when we get to that part, a lot of that is filled in based on how other goddess cultures worship their deities at that time and what we would expect it to look like. So I'd want to make that disclaimer with that too, is like that's how a lot of that looks like because we just have so little information. Okay, I'll jump back in just to see if there's anything in the chat or if anybody has any questions really quick. We had another person join. Hey, Danny. Okay, I don't see anything. Okay, so who is she exactly? So she is from the Mesopotamian region. So in this day and age, it would be considered Iraq, Turkey, Syria, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. She is from that religion, that region. She's considered, Tiamat is considered the primordial goddess of the sea, specifically the salt water. That is actually like pretty important. Like she's specifically the salt water. And she's the goddess of the sea, and she ends up mating with the other goddess Abzu, which is the goddess of groundwater, spring water, all of that. The calm waters, the seas like that. And together they end up producing the younger gods. She is the symbol of chaos and the primordial creation. She's also referred to as a woman. Almost always she's referred to as a woman. She's referred to as a divine feminine. She's referred to as a female. And she's described as the glistening one. What that means in the glistening one, it represents her as like the half and the underside of a sacred marriage. So this glistening one is her tying her to a sacred marriage between two deities, and these two deities ensue to go forth and make creation. So that's where the glistening one comes from and why that epithet is so important. Because with that epithet and with her being called the glistening one, that's where we can sit there and infer that she is correlating to being the mami or the mother or the goddess deity, and that she has that sacred union with the other divine entity in order to be the other half of creation. So that is very important. Like we see that, like that we do see. I even have like the list for the language in there so that you can see it. I find it so fascinating to look at. I can't read it. I wish I could. I have to trust all the translations I find. It is also suggested that there are actually two very separate parts to the Tiamat myth. In the first, like I've talked about, she's considered this creator goddess through the sacred marriage between the two different types of water. The very peaceful, it was a very peaceful creating of the cosmos. There was a lot of successive generations. And then there's this split in the story where something like I'm going to tell you about it. There's a split in the story to where all of a sudden, like, her demeanor changes. And in that second half, that second part of her, that second part of her mythos, she's considered this very monstrous embodiment of the primordial chaos. So then she ends up getting this picture of like the antagonist to what's considered what some, I hate using this phrase, and you guys know this from being in my classes, and if you haven't and you watch this for the time, but like the good, like she's considered the antagonist and the evil, like she's considered the opposite, the opposition, and the one that's there to like stamp out all the good and the light, and they end up like really, really identifying her that way. She does this out of grief, by the way, and I'm gonna explain that when I go through her story. Like that is literally rage through grief. That's what that is. And then because of this, like she ends up being attached to like some sources identify her with the sea serpent, specifically in the Hydra and the dragon. And like you get that because you get that very monstrous embodiment and that chaos. But then you have her tied to the primordial sea and coming out of the primordial sea and literally being the primordial sea and that being that energy and being that essence. So then you see her attached to those two different things, the sea serpent and the dragon. Okay, so before we start to really talk about her role in the Enûma Elish, which if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, please, you can totally unmute me and correct me. I'm awful to pronunciations. I do the best that I can. But that is honestly, one of the oldest origin stories that we have of all of existence in the world. It comes from the Mesopotamian and Sumerian religions, and it is this tablet, the Enûma Elish. And Tiamat is referred to in there, and she's talked to about there a lot in the creation myth. And I can go ahead and break that down for you. That's what I'm going to be doing next. When it comes to her being in there, she literally translates from the word umor hubor, which is formed all things. So she's literally referenced to as the being that literally formed everything. So she really, really had, like I said, a lot of that power. And then even in this story, like I said, there's a breaking point where something happens and then the vision of her and who she is kind of changes. She ends up serving as the antagonistic role to Marduk, who is the chief god of the Babylonians. And I will talk about him because you have to talk about him when you talk about Tiamat and who he is. And if you don't know who he is, he's a son of Enki, and he's a storm god, and he's an asshole. That's how I feel about him, to be perfectly honest. He's kind of a dick. He causes a huge war for no reason. Okay, so I'm gonna jump in the chat before I go into that and see if you guys have any questions or any comments. Oh, Melody joined. When I was looking over the Tiamat's stories, Lilith was rated to the spirit goddess. I thought that was very interesting. Yes, that's actually why finding the links between Tiamat and Lilith. Yes, that's a big reason actually why I got really drawn to Tiamat and why I started kind of working with her, because I had the connection to Lilith and they felt similar to me. To me though, with working with Tiamat versus Lilith, Tiamat feels she's much older. I don't know any other way to describe it besides her energy is just, it is so ancient and it is very, very old and it is very primal and it is a force. Lilith is that way, but it's just different. That's the best way that I can describe it. It is a lot older. It feels so much more ancient and raw and primordial, and the way it envelops you is a little bit differently. It's very intense. But yes, I do find links between those two, and I totally understand that connection. Let's see. Yeah, you can link those two too, Pan versus, yeah, you can do that. I would see that too. Primordial Sea gives me Kali vibes. I could agree with that. I could agree with that a little bit. I could agree with that. Kali for me is always very, Kali for me is always very fiery. Yeah, Pan feels so ancient when you connect to Pan too. Honestly though, like I feel like Tiamat for me feels even older than him. So if you've connected with Pan and like how ancient Pan feels, like Tiamat pulls back even further to that for me. it's a big, yeah, I think we have a small enough class. I'm still debating on if I'm going to bring her in today because she is a very, very big energy and she's one that I've been working with least amount of time. But I think we have yeah, she's just very ancient. And I wish I could describe it much more than that, but it's just a very, very primordial ancient. It is very, very old that you are feeling when you are in it. Okay, so let's jump back in here. So let's see. In the Enûma Elish, the Babylonian epic of creation, Tiamat actually like is the one who births the first generation of deities with her husband Abzû. And when it comes to that story, the way that it's really told is that she was there and Tiamat was just there. She was the primordial sea, she was the chaos, she was all of it there. And then all of a sudden, like Abzu just kind of like appeared and he was her consort, and they ended up, mating and having their children and creating a new generation of deities. And then for some reason, it's really hard to tell why. Abzu ends up feeling like the older that the kids get, they get like really boisterous. They start really not wanting to like fulfill their roles. They don't really want to keep doing what they need to be doing, like to maintain the order of the universe and stability. And so like he ends up assuming and feeling like they're a threat to him and that they're gonna end up killing him and usurping him from the throne, and that a war is gonna end up ensuing, and that both him and Tiamat are gonna end up being killed. And so in doing this, he actually, it's super interesting. So in doing this, he went to Tiamat and he asked Tiamat to be willing to actually destroy their children. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to, like, I love my children. I'm not going to do this. I love you. I love them. Like, I'm not going to do this. But in doing this, like, she felt a little bit worried. So she actually kind of went and told her son Enki, who was one of their oldest sons, and and he was the one that then got really pissed off about that. His mother told him like, hey, your father's worried that you guys are going to kill you, so he came to me and asked me to kill you guys, which sometimes I'm kind of like, why did she do that? You kind of like pitted those two against each other, like whether you did it intentionally or not. I kind of like wonder with that, because you should have just shut it down with your husband and maybe not went and told your son that your husband was asking you to kill them all. But so what ends up happening is Enki gets really pissed off. And then he actually ends up casting a spell on his father Abzu and killing him. Because he didn't want his father to kill him and his siblings first. At least that's how the story is typically told, from Marduk's perspective and telling, who is Enki's son. But he kills his father, and Tiamat is so grief stricken. She is so bereaved. She is so angry that her child just went and killed her husband and killed her beloved and killed like her love, that in her wrath she actually births an entire host of demons from a new consort named King Su, who she actually makes the general of her entire demon army that she ends up spawning with him and creating. And these monsters are said to be dragons that are poisonous. They spit poisonous flames, poisonous, like all of that. And she actually starts she literally declares war and just goes to war against all of her children over killing her husband. Um, and she's so frustrated. She's so angry. They're at war with each other. This war is going on for a while. At one point, she ends up giving King Su what's called the Tup Shamatu, which are the tablets of destiny, which are imbued with the power of deciding fate. And then somehow, one of Enki's sons, Marduk, who is a son of storms, he actually ends up seizing those tablets, which makes him able to turn the tides of the battle. Him and Tiamat end up in this big ultimate battle against each other. Marduk almost loses, Tiamat almost swallows him, but then he ends up throwing a storm into her throat, which makes her like shoot him out, like be able to like spit him out. He's able to escape. And while he was doing that, he turns around and he shoots a gust of wind into her, which ends up actually like killing her. So it said. I don't know if I fully believe she's fully dead because our planet is alive and because of this next part. It is said that like he defeats her, killing her defeats her, whatever, whichever one you want to believe. He cleaves her in half. Like that's pretty clear. He literally slices her in half and creates the heavens and the earth from her flesh. And while doing so, he is repeatedly saying, out of chaos comes order. And then Marduk ends up being viewed as the god of humanity, and he ends up being the one who's there to, keep humanity in line. And he ends up being the one that orders all the surviving like gods and everybody else to build Babylon as a tribute to him. And then that's where the rest of that religion takes off from there. So that's where that story with her, that's her main story, that's where she is, that's what she's a part of, that's her whole story, that's the biggest myth that she's a part of. It's even said in some of the lines towards the end of the Enûma Elish, it includes a very specific line that states that a watchman must keep guard over what is left of Tiamat, that she remained far off and distant unless she will end up rising again. So whether that's put in there as like some type of propaganda to fear people off, or it's actually true, that's something that people kind of are unsure about. But and the reason also another reason why is because that didn't pop up until Nebuchadnezzar, the first in Babylon was actually like a reigning king at that time, and then he would actually read that the fourth day of the New Year's festival, like that would be read in a very dramatic reading. So we're not sure if it was quite like as a propaganda to try to keep people in line and like make people, follow the religions correctly and do what they were supposed to do, or if that actually is a legitimate warning and then they just so happen to use it in a propaganda type of way. But that is said, like that is a line in the Enûma Elish. So that is in there, that is part of the story. So what I will do is I will jump back into study guide, see if you guys have stopped jumping in the chat, see if you guys have any questions about that story and about her so far. And then we'll start talking more about like who she is and her energy, where else she pops up, things like that with her. Because that's really, she's mentioned in a lot of other religious texts. Like she's mentioned in the Bible. When you look at the Gnostic version, the very first translation of some words, she's mentioned there. She pops up in the Kabbalion, she pops up in the Cabal, she pops up she's a lot of different places. And some have drawn the connection, like Danny had pointed out, to her and Lilith, and thinking that the translation literally goes all the way back that far with her at that point. So that is, she does pop up other places, but she's never like, it's not a story, it's not this big myth. And she does pop up in the Epic of Gilgamesh as well. But even there, it's a very brief thing. She's barely talking. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask them if you want, or you can put it in the chat. It's totally up to you, whatever you're comfortable with.
I'll just unmute. It's faster.
Sounds good.
So with her super strong energy, is it, I would think it would be, but is it necessary to form a kind of bond of reciprocity before you work with her?
That's what I had. She's going to be the deity that I recommend that the most with. I recommend that with almost every deity that I introduce you guys to. But with her, yes, I did a lot of work before I even considered having like a meditation to her or a prayer with her, because she is a lot of energy. That's also why I'm really on the fence and if I want to call her in, because I don't want you guys to be blown back or have any unwanted consequences from it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but what kind of consequences?
Oh, if you aren't ready for an energy, you can have a lot of unintended consequences from deities. You can have consequences to where it can make manifestation issues happen in your life. It can make abundance issues happen in your life. It can make, I mean, if you if you aren't ready for an energy with a deity and a deity to be there, it can make your chakras become completely unaligned. It can do a lot of things if you're not quite ready for it. Does that answer that question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions at all? Okay, so let's see. So I think we're on, let's see what's it telling me, page 6 of the study guide, if you're in that. So where she's seen in other texts, you do see her invoked in some prayers and incantations. They literally all mention her as the goddess of chaos, but they do very often are seen as seeking for protection. Some of them are also seen as functioning of spells for banishing evil. I hate that word, but that's how they were using it. And then she was also brought up in the Epic of Gilgamesh, but she's really not like I said, she's not a super solid appearance. When she appears in it, it's a really, really brief mention. It's nothing else. It just mentions that the universe was centered around two things: the origin of the universe, and that she was the origin of the universe, and that she was also the bear and the beast, the mother of monsters. It's this very brief, and that's all it is. And then the only tale where like I'm really confined or that I'm aware of, that it's portrayed of like her being alive after the Enûma Elish is the myth of Era. And he literally just tries to destroy Babylon. Why? Because he literally wanted to. He literally just felt like it. There was no reason, and it literally says it in the text. Like that's the literal definition that we were given is he just wanted to. He was like, I'm just gonna try and destroy it. And so he tried to destroy it just because he was bored and he wanted to. And it is shown in that text that she literally is just mentioned as like a supporting character who's like on his side and like helping her. But there's some debate about that because she's really only mentioned alongside the monsters that she gave birth to, not that she like specifically did anything or that she specifically like helped him or supported him, just being mentioned on the fact that like she was the mother of the monsters that were supporting him. Therefore, like people were making the assumption that because all of her demonic children were on his side, she must be. But that's really the only place I see her like being mentioned like alive, like other deities are like having mythos with humans and with other beings. It's the only one that I can find. It's the only one I've been able to find it on her. So if you know of another one, I would love to know and read it. So just let me know if you do. And then, like I had talked about before, her worship was really effectively stamped out by Marduk. Who we talked about was Enki's son, and if you don't know the whole history of like Enki and that Babylonian, like I definitely recommend taking a look into it. The whole philosophy and like the origin of like why humans created is so interesting underneath there. To briefly sum it up, it's pretty much that the gods got sick of really like having to do like their duties that they were assigned to do to like maintain like the universe and the cosmos. And so they decided to literally create humans out of like clay and like bits of themselves as servants to literally do their chores. Like we were literally created as like servants to do their chores in the cosmos. And I guess we weren't very easy to keep in line. And then the rest of the story kind of goes from there. But Marduk is literally the son of Enki, which is one of the two that really like start that whole revolution and thing from happening. Um, the storm god, but he's the one who slayed her, like we talked about before, and he's the one who literally created the earth out of her body. Like I said, some people say that like she's dead and like it's out of her carcass, and others do not. I personally do not fall under that it's out of her like dead carcass. That our earth is a living, breathing entity. And for this for her, for literally to have an origin story where it's created out of a living, breathing entity as well. Like it just, I don't like literally carved out of the body of an entity. Like it's just, yeah. And the fact that like our own planet, like our planet has regenerative properties, and I just, yep, there's just so many things about it that just makes so much sense. With that being an origin story, and I don't subscribe to the fact that she's dead, but there are those two different viewpoints, just so that you guys know. And then, like I said, with her worship and what they actually did to worship her, most of what we are inferring literally comes from, like I said, other goddess cultures around that time and how they were worshiping them. For example, how they were worshiping them, and how, you know, they viewed them within their societies at that time. But really what we can gain from the incantations, the spells, and from the story, she really was seen as an embodiment of chaos. And a lot of times she was given, unfortunately, that evil and monstrous epithet, which I just don't like. Her worship today, she really gets, there's actually two different separate like views and thought points when it comes to worship today. There are those that consider them Tiamat followers, and the followers of Tiamat are super well versed in the lore of dragons. They're very respectful of the draconian path. And they follow that path. They're able to draw on the essence of dragons from their magic. A lot of them have many dragon guides. They have many dragon companions and guardians, but they don't ever actually call upon her themselves. This is going to be important. This is a key difference between the other set of working with her. They described contact with her, those are who consider her followers, as terrifying, as overwhelming. They acknowledge her regularly. They worship with her. But they don't invoke her. They don't ever invoke her. They don't ever like bring her to her presence. They don't speak to her directly. They'll do incantations, they'll do prayers, they'll do worship, they'll give offerings and things like that. And they'll work with the essence of their dragon that they have specifically, and they'll work with other elemental dragons and dragon guardians. They'll work very directly with them and speak with them directly, and they will only literally only call on her like if it's literally dire need, like life or death, like very much like this is literally my last resort, or like my life is in the line type of situations. So that is really that branch, which, like I said, they consider themselves Tiamat followers, and that's who they are. And almost all of them, like I said, they follow the draconian path, and they practice dragon magic and draconian magic. And then we have the children of Tiamat, which nowadays, like very like if you find like I said, these are what I'm finding nowadays for the two different lanes and where you will actually find places to be able to worship her with others. But the children of Tiamat, and these are witches that describe a very, very different and polar opposite experience with her. Their dragon souls are really like called home to her. They really view her as a very motherly figure. They describe her as powerful and loving and warm and a very encompassing goddess. And they acknowledge that she's got incredibly great power and an incredibly great capacity for wrath and destruction and chaos, but they don't fear it. And they walk the dragon path, they walk the draconian path, with her alongside of them. They call on her regularly. They make her a part of their every single day. They make them a part of her rituals. They call on her for literally anything. They don't think that she's only used for dire needs and situations. She can be called on for anything. They also have experienced like a very playful side to her, also a very worried side to her, an anxious side to her, like a very worried and brooding like mother, a very protective mother side to her. They also have experienced like a mother defending, like scorning you and scolding you and like lecturing you. And those that walk this path call it like a very, very, very personal path with her. Um, my personal experience with her so far has been a mix between the two. I have times to where she is coming through like very, very fiery, very chaotic, very, very powerful, it's very fearful in some senses, and then other senses she does come through as this very like motherly figure that's very powerful and very all-encompassing, like in the chaos, like in the stillness of chaos. That's the best way that I can describe like how it feels when she comes through like that. Is it's really this very comforting envelopment and encompassing, like loving enjoyment of chaos and the stillness that it brings and the reflection that it brings. And just like chaos can be so soothing and so comforting when you know that everything in the like when you really, really sink into the feeling that like everything in the multiverse is chaos. Like, yes, it's order, but it's also like just pure chaos. And that feeling is, it can be very comforting when she comes up that way. So for me, I've experienced her both ways. So I can call validity to both sides, and I understand both sides of it. Um, so when it comes to her as well, she's considered a goddess of chaos. Even though like she's considered a goddess of chaos, even though in war, like she wasn't like super brutal in a sense, because she really only fought against, like, she didn't want to fight against her children. Like she did it like literally because it killed her husband. Like she didn't want to fight against them. It wasn't something she wanted to do. She did it out of pure like grief rage. And the chaos that she really represents is literally just simply the lack of natural order in things, and that there are some things that just like simply can't be understood, and that from chaos is where order arises. Like you don't have order and meaning and all of that without like coming out of the chaos first. And that's really what she represents with that being chaos. It's not supposed to be like this chaos, like evil, dark, destructive, I'm gonna destroy and like kill everything and like stomp everything to the ground type of feeling. Like it's really supposed to just represent, and she really just represents, like I said, like that very simple lack of natural order to things. And the fact that like that is where everything stems from and comes from. Okay, so before we get into correspondence and stuff, I will jump back into the chat and see if we have any questions. Okay, what are the ties on why so many female deities are creators of the universe? Um, so I think for one, there's a lot to unpack with that actually. So what are the ties on why so many female deities are creators of the universe? For one, if you want to look at it, the fact that a lot of deities and religions and everything, like they come from a human source, first and foremost, like we get those texts from a human source. And who gives birth? Females. Like that's how they've always known it to be. So for them to choose to have female deities represent being the creators of the universe, it makes sense. Before like we really wanted to like stamp out the divine feminine and things like that. And so like that makes sense from like a human standpoint, and the fact that, like I said, like all of our texts, they do come from a human perspective. So like we have to keep that in mind when we look at these things. Then when you look at what everything really represents, when you go as far out to like the planets and like the cosmos and like the ones that like really affect like the unconscious, the subconscious, they affect like the underneath, the things that we don't want to talk about, the things that we don't know. Like it typically usually almost always is attached to like a feminine energy. So it makes sense for the divine creator to also be that divine feminine energy and to come from female deities, because any other entity out there within the cosmos seems to be connected to that as well. You see that connection there. Um, and I also personally am the subscriber of literally like you need both energies, like you can't exist without either one. So I don't hold the fact, like I don't also place the fact that like female deities aren't any more of a creator of the universe than the divine masculine counterpart that's there with them, that's there alongside them. Like I don't feel like personally for me, Tiamat should be venerated any more as like a creator of the universe than Abzu, who was her consort and made it possible for the creation to happen. I think though that the female deities end up getting so much more veneration because of the physical actual act of birthing that they go through to create the universe. Because almost always when you talk about it, there still is like a physical act that like, or an energy, an explosion that's expended from that female counterpart of the universe that creates it. So I think that's why it ends up with a little bit more of an emphasis as well in a lot of those, and it ends up overshadowing that divine masculine. And I think that's also kind of why Christianity was like, hey, we're gonna just try to get rid of the divine feminine as much as possible, because for years the divine feminine was overpowering the divine masculine in creation. I hope, does that answer your question? I hope so. I kind of went on a little bit of a thing there. Does it answer that? I hope so. If not, you can tell me too, and I can try again.
It's just more because there's so many. Like I how come there's so many that birthed the universe? But we don't have to go down that rabbit hole today.
I will make a note, because I want to start doing more like random, like 30-minute, like live, like chats on like topics. So I'll make a note that this can be one. And I will make sure I have all my little points ready to go on this one. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or anything, guys? Okay. Let's see here. So when it comes to correspondences, if you've been here with me before, and I think all of you have, but if you're watching the replay, this is the first time you're catching me, a correspondence is an item, a thing, a sigil, a symbol, whatever it is that you use to represent, connect to a certain type of energy, entity, being, anything like that. So whether you're doing it to represent an element, whether you're doing it to represent a deity like here, whether you're doing it to represent an archetype energy, it's just something to connect, worship, represent, venerate, anything, like any of those words work for what a correspondence is. So that's what a correspondence is. When it comes to Tiamat's correspondences, you're not going to have as many like you normally see with all the other deities I've normally done, because like I've talked about, we don't have a lot to go off of how to worship her. We really have had to fill in a lot of blanks. We don't really know what was going on when it came to worship with her. But themes that you can do for like spell work, or things that you can do for like ritual work that will have to do with her, or ways that she can help your life, and things that she can be called on for, are going to be things that have to do with history, change and transformation, spirituality and intuition specifically as well, fertility and birth, creativity, chaos magic, order magic, like anything that has to do with order and organization, anything that has to do with, like I have touched, creativity and expansion. And then I also really love to work with her when it comes to grief, and working through grief, and specifically like rage through grief. Because like I don't know about you, like I've never, like I've had a lot of deaths in my life, and like close family deaths in my life, and I don't think I've gone through a single one without experiencing some type of grief, anger. And she really, and I've talked to a few other people where she's really helped with that too. And then anything that has to do with like dragons or dragon magic, or anything that has to do with that, she's going to be really great with that. Symbols for her are going to be reptiles and the seawater, and then obviously, dragons as well. Incense that can be used with her, or, oils or smells, dragon's blood, and then sandalwood. If you have anything that like reminds you of like the sea as well, like that works too. Element is going to be water, but I always add salt to it. I've never been able to get a very like clear meditation, or even like a prayer feel like it's connected with her without having it be salt water specifically. But the element is going to be water, and then I always add salt to it. Crystals and stones are going to be any red or black stones, any of the red or black ones. I have really, really good luck with red jasper, carnelian, and then obsidian when it comes to her. Offerings that you can do for her are going to be salt water, any creative expressions that you've made, seashells to connect to the sea, or anything that does specifically connect you to the sea, even if it's like sand or anything like that. Red wine, and then things of value or that you really treasure. So anything that like you really treasure or has value to you can be placed on your offering as an offering to her and can be used as that for her. And then when it comes to herbs, and there's got to be a disclaimer because you need to be careful. I don't want you to like get hurt, and I don't want you to like die to have this be a part of like an offering or a spell or a ritual or working with you. So if you don't know how to work with them safely, please do not do it. But poisonous flowers are the herbs that connect to her, because of, her horde of poison spitting dragons that she decided to birth to try to, take out her other children. That's the herb that's going to really connect you to her. Any of those types of herbs that are going to be poisonous. But like I said, if you do not know how to safely work with them, just don't use herbs with her. Divination is, I put this in here, I don't normally for a theme, but water scrying is incredibly effective with her. Normally I put like a tarot card in there for you guys, but I don't get a strong connection with her with tarot readings. Like I've never felt her really come through. I've never really had her I've never had her assist with that. But water scrying, like I've really gotten a really strong connection with her, and the ritual I put in here for you guys actually is part of that and similar to that. It is a great way to connect with her that way. In the study guide, I do have some prayers for you. They're pretty simple and small. We have some that are longer and some that are shorter, but I do have prayers for you in here that have worked. Some of these prayers come from like legitimate, actual ancient text sources that we found, and others come from two of the resources that I have at the very bottom of the study guide. One is the Grimoire of Tiamat, and then you have Tiamat Unveiled, Embracing the Primordial. Both of those are great resources. They break her down in an amazing way. And then they give you the ways to work with her as well, and the prayers. They've got amazing prayers that I put in here for you as well from both of those sources. Like I said, I've got some longer ones and some shorter ones. And then in the study guide, when it comes to the ritual, because Tiamat is a goddess responsible for creation, she can assist us with protection. She can assist us when we need more creativity in your life. And this ritual specifically kind of deals with both of those. You can always do your magic at any time that you want because it's your practice and you can tailor it to what's going to feel best for you. But doing this during the full moon is going to really attract creativity and inspiration. And you can also use this during a full moon to help you move through rage. And rage caused by grief or rage caused by any type of betrayal. So this is one that I was talking about before. All you'll need are 3 white candles, a metal bowl full of salt water. And then what you do is you draw a circle and you arrange your items inside of it, like inside of the water with the circle. You make the water surface and reflect like a moon. You end up then lighting the candles, and then you relax, and then you ask the goddess Tiamat to purify the water and bless it in a way that stimulates your creativity. You then sit there and you continue to like draw the circle of the moon if you need in the water to continue to make it reflect like a moon if you need to, or if you're able to simply just, visualize and reflect in the water that way through scrying, you can. Either one works. But then what you do after you ask to stimulate your creativity, you sit in that space and you continue to do that while visualizing the aspects of your life that can benefit from this stimulation of creativity that you are asking for and how it's going to be able to provide you happiness. And you sit and you do that with that visualization as long as you need to until you feel that you have it set, you feel confident and grounded in it, and you feel like you're going to be able to pull that up and bring it up when you need to. Once you feel that way, you're then going to raise that bowl and you're going to pour the water over your shoulders and you're going to literally let it drain out as if you're allowing all of your creative energy that Tiamat just gave to you in that water while you were concentrating and pulling her in to flow through you. And then you're going to allow that vision that you're visualizing to flow through you with her water. Once you do that, you thank the goddess. If you cast a circle, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It really just depends on my mood. You then can undo that circle and close that circle, and then you end up letting the candles burn out until they are done. Make sure you do that safely. Make sure you come back to them. You don't leave them so they're gonna burn your house down or anything like that. I promise you, it's not a fun thing to go through. Been through that twice. You don't want to do that. So please wash your candles and make sure they're safe. And then once they have burnt out, you want to make sure that you disregard the remains with running water. So you want to make sure you disregard any of the remains of that burning candle. You want to wash them with running water as you disregard them. That way you have that symbolization going in through there. Okay, so the next ritual that I have for you, you're going to end up choosing any of the prayers that I have listed here, or you can research others, or even create your own if you would like. If this is your first time ever working with her, I would pick one that I have here for you, or go and research others. I wouldn't create something of your own yet, but again, I'm also not going to dictate your path and your practice. If you feel like that's something that you can do, if you feel like something that's part of your practice, you feel like you have that level, that energy, and you can do that, go for it. I would just, like I said, recommend picking one from here or researching others that have already been used. But once you've picked one, you're going to get in a comfortable position. You're going to enter sacred space for your energetic container, whichever one that you consider that. You're going to get grounded. You're going to make sure that you're ready to go to be able to visualize. And then what you're going to do is, as you say that prayer that you picked, you're going to visualize a large dragon rising up from the primordial waters of the ocean, breathing fire into your sacred space and breathing fire into the center of you. And you're going to do that while you're reciting your prayer. If you picked a really short one, you can recite it as many times as you feel that you need to, and visualize that as many times as you need to. If you're doing a long one and you're good by the end of the first time, you can be good. If you want to do it more than once, you can do it as many times as you need to. But you repeat that and you do that visualization as much as you need to until you feel like you have as much energy that has been breathed into you from that fire and breathed into your sacred space as you need. Once you feel that you have that, you can then go ahead and close your circle and leave your sacred space. And then make sure that you don't forget that you thank that energy, you thank that dragon, which when you're doing this, you should be visualizing it as Tiamat and calling it as Tiamat. And make sure you thank her for joining you, make sure you thank her for allowing that energy to be there for you, and you honor that. Fabulous. Okay, so went through some rituals and some prayers. I'm going to jump into the chat, see if you guys have any questions. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions or any comments. Okay, I don't see or hear anybody or anything. Okay, so we're really at the end of the study guide with her. So when it comes to wrap up and overview and summary, she is Tiamat. She's seen as the creation of all. She's seen as the great dragon mother. She's very fiercely protective. She holds that title of like being very lawfully evil in some senses and some interpretations of her. She's a personification of creation. She's a personification of creative forces. She is literally all of creation and everything that's fertile within the Babylonian traditions. And that Tiamat literally gave birth to the world. Like we literally are living inside of her right now, when it comes to this power and who she is. Like we are literally inside of her. Like this world is made out of her. She is the very inventive power of chaos, whose ever-changing energy really hones on the human soul. She creates absolutely unending possibilities for its enlightenment. And she really just is an amazing deity that is able to harness so much and connect to so much. And she's just, yeah, so much. She's a lot of power, a lot of raw power. She's very ancient. She's very old. For me, when I've been really working with her, she's really helped, personally with the creative force. She's really helped awaken and open that up for me. I got really connected to her after I myself became a mother. And a lot of people that I've spoken to, I think that that's been a similar thing. That's been a similar thing with them. That doesn't mean that just because if you're not a mother that you can't connect to her, but personally that was really my journey with her. Because like I said, I kind of dabbled in her about 5 or 6 years ago, but then really I didn't really start working with her until about a year ago. Like really honing in on that, really connecting with her, really being willing and able to open myself up to her energy. And the first time I was not ready. I definitely was not ready. I got hit with a lot of energy. I actually ended up sleeping almost the entire rest of the day. And for about 2 weeks after that, I was incredibly irritable. My anger was literally through the roof. I almost broke my phone because I threw it up against the wall. I was so pissed. Just because it was so much energy that had flooded me, and I just was not ready to experience everything that she had and all the truths that she had to show me. But once you get through that and once you really connect with her and you can feel her, she can, like I said, for me, I've experienced her in those two different ways. She's really shown up to me in this very fiery, this very burning rage. I'm hurting and I shouldn't have to feel this hurt. And I feel this hurt because other people around me literally did things to cause this hurt to me. And like, so you really feel it, like burning rage and grief and just sadness and this just the revenge aspect as well that you feel with the undertone of it and the retribution, like, but then there's also like that very deep-seated grief of like I'm also having to like try to destroy my children, like in order to avenge my husband. I'm having to try to kill my children that I birthed and I love just as dearly as I loved him. And so just you really feel that with her, and she can show up to you in that time in ways, and then other ways it's just that it's this very deep still, no sense of like order around you, but like stillness that's also very like comforting but confusing, like chaos that she is. And like just getting into like the sense of like almost like the beginning of time with her. And she's very phenomenal. Okay, I'm gonna jump in the chat again, see if you guys have any questions. I know. I had to put the title in there because that's how people would know her, honey, is the lawful evil from D&D. Like yeah. Because she pops up there too sometimes. Like they give her that title everywhere. I see that all the time. It's funny. Okay. Do you guys have any questions or any comments or anything at all when it comes to her? Go ahead, honey.
Sorry, one second. Are you still gonna call her in, or do you not know yet? Still getting vibes.
Okay. How do you guys feel about it? Because I'm telling you, like it's a big energy. And it can come at you one of two ways. And if you're not ready, I can only protect you from so much. So I also kind of want to leave it up to you guys. I've never summoned her in a way of having other people around either. So I'm kind of wondering what you guys want to do. Because if you guys don't want to, I am fully fine of making a note to come back to her in like 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. That way you guys have time to work with her, research her, learn more about her, do some offerings to her on your own. And then I can bring in. So
I'm sorry. If it's okay with everybody else, I'm fine with it.
Fine with me doing it or waiting?
Fine with you doing it.
Okay.
If it's okay with everybody else.
I mean, otherwise the other option is I can leave it open, and if people want to stay, they can stay, and then if people want to leave, they can leave. So we have a couple different options. To be honest, I would be very intrigued to see what happens with me bringing her in through meditation for other people and how she presents to other people.
I'm okay with just popping off, and then if you do it again, I'm open. I
Okay.
could just.
Okay.
Thank you guys, everybody. Bye.
Thank you so much for being here. I super appreciate it.
I love your groups. Thank you.
Thank you. I super appreciate it. Okay, I was actually gonna ask if I could sit in. Okay, yeah, no. So I guess that's what we can do. Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I just would have to get a couple things ready here. And I can do it, and then yeah. You guys can choose to interact if you want to. You can choose to just listen. You can choose to actually join the meditation state if you want to be a part of it. Or you can jump off. So I will leave it all up to you guys.
Well, just sitting in, will that kind of affect us this way also, or no?
I think if you choose to not interact outside of this would be my only request. If you choose to just sit in, I just would request that the only interaction that you have is at least like just some type of thank you at some point in time, that like you're even just sitting in with the meditation. So just some type of thank you to her, that like you acknowledge that the meditation's happening. Other than that, I would not request any other interactions whatsoever. I wouldn't request for you to have any conversations with her, to ask her to come to you, to ask like any of that. So that would be the only thing I would be asking. If you're okay with that and if that makes sense, then that would be the only thing I would say. Does that answer
Okay.
that question or no?
Yeah. I still don't know. I'm still kind of wary, so I think I am gonna pop off, and
That's
then
totally fine.
hopefully we can come back to her
Yeah, I
again.
will totally make a note to come back to her.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Kelsey. I'm really enjoying this series. I don't get to do them live that often because of my wonky schedule, but I appreciate you doing this, and I really enjoy watching the rewatches.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And I love that you love it. It makes me feel really happy, and I'm happy that you like it.
All right. Well,
Thank
I'll see
you.
you. Bye.
See you at the next one. Okay, so okay guys. I will then I'll go ahead and unmute myself. I need to get a few things ready because like I said, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do here. And then yeah, this is gonna be shorter than most. This is gonna be probably pretty quick. But I will give you guys a chance to choose to interact with her or not. So yeah, let me go ahead and mute myself. Just give me a few minutes. If you guys are going to, even just be in the meditation, just make sure that you guys are grounded. And then if you're going to interact, just get into your sacred space like usual, with like you guys do with me typically, because everybody in here has been with me before. So okay, I'm going to mute myself and get a few things ready. Okay, everybody. We are going to go ahead and take a few deep breaths in and out. And in and out. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of both above and below and all around. I summon you here, and I ask you to hold those gateways. I call to each and every soul within this circle here this afternoon. I ask for you to join us in protection, guidance, wisdom, creativity, and expansion. I ask you to be willing and open to receive any of the messages and energies that are going to come forth for you today. And I ask you to be grounded and protected from all of your spirit guides, by all of your spirit guides, by all interdimensional beings that are here to assist you, by any other entities and deities that would like to assist you and protect you here today. I call to all the guardians and gatekeepers of the element of north. I'm sorry, the direction of north and the element of earth, the body of which Tiamat is made. Where all of this planet resides is within her two halves, is within her body. It is breathing and pulsating as we live within her. I called the guardians and gatekeepers, the direction of north and the element of earth. I summon you here, and I thank you so very much for holding the northern gateway this afternoon. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers, the direction of east and the element of air. You are the breath of change. You are the winds of change. You are the ways that information moves across this planet. You are the breath that moves within each and every one of these bodies and each and every one of these souls. You are how our vibrations speak and how we move across this planet. I call the guardians and gatekeepers of the element of air and the direction of east. And I thank you so very much for holding the Eastern Gateway this afternoon. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of south and the elements of fire. You are the passion that burns within our souls. You are the fire which with Tiamat spits out her rage and her grief and her punishment. You are the blazing breath of creativity that spans across this planet, that spans across this cosmos. You are the embers of creativity, expansion, and birth. I call to you the elements of fire and the guardians of the directions of south. I call to you guardians and gatekeepers, and I summon you here. And I thank you so very much for holding the Southern Gateway tonight. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of west and the element of water. The deep, dark, silent chaos that is the waters of all the oceans across this realm. You are who Tiamat is. You are what she is made of. You are what order comes and bursts out of. You are where every single creation has come out of. You are the giver of life and knowledge and wisdom and understanding. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of west and the element of water. I summon in here and I ask you to hold the Western Gateway this afternoon. Okay, guys, I want you to take a few deep breaths in and out, in and out. And as you do so, I want you to continue to be grounded in your sacred space. Become aware of the surroundings you were in. Are you in the stillness of an ocean and water? Are you in a place of flames and fire? Or are you in your own sacred space and she's going to be meeting you there? How does it feel? How does it smell? How does it taste? How does it look? What emotions are coming up? Do you feel stillness and chaos? Do you feel rage and passion? Do you feel creativity? Do you feel grief? Do you feel the absolute desire to burst something new? Do you feel the rage of protection for a loved one? As you continue to take a few deep breaths in and out, you continue to feel centered in your sacred space, and you continue to notice the surroundings around you. We call to dear Tiamat, the mother dragon, the spirit of the cosmos. We ask that she hears us with this light, and we invoke her, the goddess, to walk again. From her waters, which all were made, and in her abyss, we are completely not afraid. We shall know peace, for she teaches us what we need to learn. And after we are done, to the waters or the fire she will return. The wisdom of Tiamat glows ever so bright within. Within our heart, a fire glows, and we feel it. Both the joy and the pain that a mother knows, the love and the frustration, the fear and the triumphs, the warmth and comfort it will give, and the death it'll bring to us eventually, all in the end. We call to the passion of Tiamat that glows within. From our lungs, the storms of air surging forth. We shall literally clean humanity and the earth with the breath of life from her chest. The transformation of Tiamat grows within, from both the sky above and the earth below, with which her body was used to create. Her body has blessed all that grows within, so that we shall know balance. We shall know both the masculine and feminine, the dark and the light. As great Tiamat resides there in both her flames and her rage and her passion, and in the stillness of the chaos and creation. We ask that she comes forth and walks again with us, the spirit dragon of the cosmos. We ask her to be here, dear mother, and to let her waters run cool over us, and to have her fire burn bright, to show us both the darkness of chaos and the light of burning passion, creativity, and destruction, to teach us the balance between both compassion and wisdom, theory and justice, intuition and chaos and order. Take a few deep breaths in and out. And as you do so, I want you to look around that sacred space that you're in, the surroundings that you're in. And I want you to notice if there's anything in any spot calling to take form to you, calling to come to you from within the flames, within the waters. Do you feel this voice, this pulsing energy for you to go to speak to embrace? If so, I want you to decide if you're going to do so. And if not, that's okay. Just acknowledge that the feeling's there. Just acknowledge that the presence is there. If you want to approach it, please approach her in gratitude and in understanding. Whether she's a fiery, breathing, blazing flame of rage, retribution, creativity, passion, or she's a dark stillness of chaos, of wisdom, of source, of primordial energy, of time. However she's choosing to present to you, just approach her with gratitude, respect, and openness. And as you get closer, does that energy start to take shape and form into something? And how are you starting to see it? Do you see her more as a human and as a woman? Do you see her more as a humanoid dragon? Part human, part dragon, because dragons are known to shift. Do you see her as a dragon with many heads? Is she breathing fire, or is she sitting still within the calmness, within the stillness of the waters of the sea and the chaos beneath? Is she dark, or is she bright? Are you seeing tails and horns and scales? Are you seeing skin and hair? As you continue to take in how she's presenting herself to you, remember to take deep breaths in and stay grounded in your energy. Stay grounded in those that are there to protect you. If the energy starts to feel too much, the message starts to feel too much, you can thank her and pull back and ask to speak to her another time. If the message is open and you're willing to receive, you can continue to converse with her. Continue to feel the surroundings around you, how they feel, how they smell, how they taste, what you see. As you continue to sit with her for the last final moments here, ask her what type of message she has for you if you're willing to receive. If she has something to say to you about chaos, or transformation, or creativity, or time, or even the origins of humanity. Ask her the last final things you would like to ask her, and be willing to receive whatever information she has to provide to you. Again, whether it's in the blazing fires of rage and creativity and retribution, or in the protection of chaos and silence and love and wisdom. Remember to feel that time, that primordial energy. As you hear the last thoughts and messages she has to give to you, now is the time to thank her for showing up and being willing to meet with you. Now is the time to thank her for the messages you have received. Now is the time to establish any further meetings or communications you would like to at this time. Now is the time to establish that bond for future relationship if you would like. As you finish thanking her and giving gratitude, I want you to also take a few deep breaths in and thank and honor yourself for being willing to be in this space, for being willing to experience this energy, for being willing and open to experience any messages that may have been come forth for you. As you take a few deep breaths in and out, I want you to start to recenter back into your own sacred space if you've left it. Continue to take a few deep breaths in and out. And as you do so, I would like for you to ask any and all of your guides, interdimensional beings, entities, other deities, anything that was here to protect you and guide you and shield you in wisdom and comfort. I would like you to thank them for being here and ask them to continue to hold you in that for as long as you need to with this energy that you just experienced. I'm going to take a few deep breaths in and out. In and out. As we do so, I thank you to your great mother dragon goddess Tiamat, the creator of all, the one whose body we literally live in, the great original primordial sea of chaos, the mother of all creation, the mother of demons and monsters out of retribution and grief. I thank you so, so, so very much for being willing to open up your energy, your messages, your guidance, your wisdom, your protection, and anything else you provided to each and every single soul within this circle here this afternoon. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers, the direction of west and the element of water. I thank you so very much for being here and holding the western gateway this afternoon. And I release you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of direction of south and the element of fire. I thank you so very much for being here and holding the southern gateway here tonight, this afternoon. And I release you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the element of east, the direction of east and the element of air. I thank you so very much for being here, and I release you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers the direction of north and the element of earth. I thank you so very much for being here, and I release you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers both above, below, and all around. I call to all other deities, any other entities, interdimensional beings, spirit guides, demons, and any other energy and archetype that was here today to hold the gateways both above, below, and all around. And I release you. Amen. Aho, so mote it is. Okay, guys. I hope those who stayed, because it seems like I think we had somebody drop out too. I hope who stay, everybody was here, that you got what you needed out of it. I hope that it wasn't, too much. And if it was, please do any type of cleansing that you need to do. Please do any type of grounding. Go outside, touch the earth, get yourself centered. If you like to use crystals, you can use any type of grounding crystals to ground you. Anything that has to do with Tiamat can ground you as well if you want to have any crystals or items that have to do with her. Otherwise, you can always do any type of shadow work or journaling and auto scripting to get anything out of you that may be excessive as well. That is something else that you can do as well. You can always reach out to me and DM me as well. And if anybody has any questions, any comments, anything they want to say, now is the time. Oh, Jen, I am so happy that you were able to have that experience. That is so beautiful, and I'm so happy, and that makes me happy I decided to do this. That's one reason kind of why I wanted to do it, because if she was going to present to people in that way, I really wanted her to present in that way. That was the way she presented to me the second time that I met her, and it was fabulous. So I'm really, really, really happy. I am so, so happy that she was able to do that for you. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. an ocean and felt an overwhelming comfort and love from a mother that I haven't felt in my life, and it was quite emotional. I am so happy about that. I'm so glad. Oh, I love that too, Anna. Oh, honey, I love that. And I'm glad though, I'm also super, super glad that like you knew like what you could handle and you pulled back. And I wanted to make sure like you guys felt that the whole way through. That's why I kept like reminding you guys, like if you guys can't, like it's okay, like pull back, like it's okay. Because you can definitely do that with deities. And I absolutely love that because I felt a mother aspect of her warmth and lovingness, and you kind of broke down in the energy after sitting in it for a minute. You said thank you and dipped out. And she said something that you knew but you weren't ready for, and she understood. So I'm really happy you were able to experience that. I'm so happy too, like I said, that you knew like what you could handle and you let it go. I'm very, very happy about that. I'm super proud of you too. Oh yay, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Okay, fabulous. Okay, I don't see anything else or have anything else. So if you guys watch the replay and like you have any questions about her, definitely feel free to reach out to me and ask, because like I said, she's a big energy. And as you can like even the two people here, like they big energy they felt too, like big energy they got. So and I'm really happy I did this. I haven't found anybody who's talked about her in this way, shape, or form online. So I'm really, really excited. So thank you guys so much for being with me. So much. I'm super, super appreciative. And yeah, if you guys need anything, please just reach out to me. I think my next class is on Thursday, and I believe it's Working with Demons class 2. And then I think the next deity I'm doing, I believe, is Pan. I believe it's the next deity I'm doing because I'm rotating between dark goddesses and the dark and the deities and the gods, the masculine, divine masculine. Because I want to have everybody experience both. So I think Pan's the next god I'm doing. After that, I don't know the goddess, so I'll have to get back to you guys on that one. I have classes all the way out to I think like March or April right now. So okay, thank you guys so much for being here with me. I super, super appreciate it. Have a really good rest of your day.